In the northern territories, where ancient pines whisper secrets of fate and bloodlines determine destinies, Luna Blackwood had always been the afterthought, the second daughter, the forgotten shadow, the girl whose name was written in smaller letters. While her sister Arya shone like the sun, Luna was the twilight, beautiful in her own right, but always overshadowed, always second. She had accepted her place with quiet dignity, had swallowed the bitter truth that she would be offered as a second mate to her sister's chosen warrior, a tradition as old as the packs themselves, but no less cruel for its antiquity. After all, what use was fighting against the tide of expectations that had been decided long before she drew her first breath? But destiny, it seems, writes in ink that cannot be erased by human plans. When Alpha King Alaric Shadowthorn's golden eyes met hers across the ceremonial hall, something ancient and primal awakened. A recognition that transcended tradition, that defied the careful arrangements of fathers and councils. Luna Blackwood will not be part of this arrangement, the king had declared, his voice carrying the weight of mountains and the certainty of stars. And in that moment, as the world she knew crumbled around her, Luna felt something dangerous and forbidden bloom in her chest. Hope. For the first time in her life, someone had looked at her and seen not the second daughter, not the consolation prize, but something worth fighting for. Little did she know that this unexpected reprieve would thrust her into a world of palace intrigue, ancient magic, and deadly betrayal, a world where being seen at last might cost her everything. Before we begin, remember to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Every day, a new story awaits you. Now, let us begin. Luna Blackwood stood at the edge of the forest clearing, watching as the final rays of sunlight filtered through the ancient pines. The scent of pine needles and wild jasmine filled the air, a familiar comfort that did little to ease the knot of dread in her stomach. Tonight was the night her father would announce her sister's mating to the pack's strongest warrior, Axel Stone, and also the night Luna would be promised as his second mate. "There you are," a voice called from behind her. "Father's been looking everywhere for you." Luna turned to find her younger sister, Arya, standing a few feet away. Even in the fading light, Arya was stunning, all golden curls and delicate features, the perfect image of what a future Luna should be. "I needed some air," Luna replied, forcing a smile. "The ceremony starts soon, doesn't it?" Arya nodded, her expression softening with sympathy. "Luna, Don't," Luna interrupted, raising her hand. "Please don't apologize again. This is how things are done. The firstborn daughter mates the chosen warrior, and if he's of high enough rank, he gets the second daughter too." She recited the words like a lesson learned by rote, which in many ways it was. Arya took a step closer, reaching for Luna's hand. "But it's not fair. You should have a choice." Luna squeezed her sister's fingers. Despite everything, she couldn't resent Arya. This wasn't her fault. The traditions of their pack were older than both of them, set in stone generations before they were born. In their world, mates were chosen for strength and alliance, not for love. "We should head back," Luna said, avoiding her sister's concerned gaze. "Father will be furious if we're late." As they made their way through the forest toward the pack house, Luna felt the weight of her future pressing down on her. At 22, she was already considered past her prime mating age. Most wolf shifters were paired off by 19 or 20, but Luna had been saved for this moment, for this specific arrangement. The pack house came into view, its windows glowing with warm light against the darkening sky. Outside, members of their pack were gathering, dressed in their finest clothes. Luna could smell the nervousness coming off Arya in waves, a sharp contrast to her own resigned acceptance. Inside, their father, Gregory Blackwood, was directing servants, his broad shoulders tense beneath his formal attire. As the pack's beta, he had certain standards to maintain, and tonight's ceremony would be attended by the Alpha King himself. "There you are," Gregory growled when he spotted his daughters. "Luna, where have you been? The ceremony starts in 30 minutes, and you're not even dressed properly." "I'm sorry, Father," Luna replied automatically, lowering her eyes in submission. Gregory grunted, gesturing toward the stairs. "Your dress is laid out in your room. Be quick about it." Luna hurried upstairs, grateful for the momentary escape. Her room, at least, was still her sanctuary, for now. Once the mating was formalized, she would move into Axel's quarters, sharing a space with both him and Arya. The dress waiting for her was beautiful, she had to admit. deep blue silk that shimmered in the lamplight, with silver embroidery along the hem and sleeves. It had been her mother's once, before she died giving birth to Arya. Luna touched the fabric gently, wondering if her mother would have approved of this arrangement, if she would have fought for Luna's right to choose. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. "Luna? It's me," Arya called softly. "Can I come in?" Luna opened the door, already half-dressed. Arya slipped inside, closing the door behind her. She was resplendent in a gown of pale gold, her hair arranged in an intricate braid, adorned with fresh flowers. "You look beautiful," Luna said honestly. Arya's eyes filled with tears. "I can't do this to you." Luna sighed, turning to allow her sister to fasten the back of her dress. "You're not doing anything to me. This is what Father wants, what the pack expects. But what do you want?" The question hung in the air between them, dangerous in its simplicity. What did Luna want? Freedom, perhaps. The chance to find her own mate. Someone who would look at her first, not as an afterthought. Someone who would see her as more than just a second prize. "It doesn't matter what I want," Luna finally said. "This is how things are." Arya opened her mouth to argue, but another knock, harder this time, cut her off. "Girls, it's time," their father called through the door. "The Alpha King and his entourage have arrived." Luna took a deep breath, smoothing her hands over the silk of her dress. "Ready?" Arya nodded, though her eyes still shimmered with unshed tears. The grand hall of the pack house was transformed for the occasion. Hundreds of candles cast a golden glow over the assembled pack members, and the air was heavy with the scent of ceremonial incense. At the front of the room stood Axel Stone, tall and imposing in his formal attire, his dark hair slicked back from his forehead. Luna had known Axel her entire life. He was 7 years her senior, already established as one of the pack's most formidable warriors when she was still a child. He was handsome, she supposed, in a conventional way. Strong jaw, broad shoulders, eyes the color of storm clouds. But she had never felt anything for him beyond a distant respect. As Luna and Arya approached, the crowd parted. Luna kept her eyes lowered, as was expected of her, but she could feel the weight of the pack's attention. The whispers reached her sensitive ears. Comments about how lovely Arya looked, how fortunate Axel was to gain 2 mates, how unusual it was for the Alpha King himself to attend such a ceremony. The Alpha King? Luna risked a glance toward the front of the room, where a single figure stood apart from the others. Even without looking directly at him, she could feel his power. It radiated from him like heat from a flame, commanding attention and respect. King Alaric Shadowthorn had ruled the Northern Territories for the past 5 years, ever since his father's death. Luna had never seen him in person before, though his reputation preceded him. He was said to be ruthless but fair, a king who demanded absolute loyalty, but rewarded it generously. As she and Arya reached the front of the room, Luna finally allowed herself to look up, and her breath caught in her throat. The Alpha King was nothing like she had imagined. Yes, he was tall and powerfully built, as befitted an alpha, but there was something else about him, a wild intensity that seemed barely contained beneath his regal exterior. His hair was the color of midnight, falling in loose waves to his shoulders, and his eyes were fixed directly on her. Luna quickly lowered her gaze again, her heart hammering against her ribs. She must have imagined it. The Alpha King had no reason to notice her, not when Arya stood beside her, radiant as the sun. Their father stepped forward, raising his hands for silence. "Brothers and sisters of the Blackwood Pack, we gather tonight to celebrate a union that will strengthen our bloodlines and honor our traditions. My eldest daughter, Arya, is to be mated to our strongest warrior, Axel Stone." A cheer went up from the assembled pack members. Luna kept her face carefully neutral as her father continued. "And as is our custom for warriors of Axel's rank, my second daughter, Luna, will join this union as his second mate." The cheers were more subdued this time, mixed with curious murmurs. Second matings were traditional, but becoming less common in modern times. Luna felt the heat of embarrassment creeping up her neck. "If the Alpha King would do us the honor of blessing this union," Gregory continued, turning toward King Alaric with a deep bow. There was a moment of tense silence. Luna risked another glance upward, and found the Alpha King still watching her, his expression unreadable. "I will not," he said finally, his voice deep and resonant. cutting through the hall like a blade. The crowd fell completely silent. Luna's head snapped up in shock, her eyes meeting the king's directly for the first time. A jolt of something. Recognition? Fear? Anticipation? Shot through her. "Your Majesty?" Gregory stammered, clearly caught off guard. King Alaric stepped forward, his movement predatory and graceful. "I said, I will not bless this union." He turned his gaze to Axel, who had gone pale. "Warrior Stone, you may take Arya Blackwood as your mate with my blessing, but Luna Blackwood will not be part of this arrangement." Luna felt as though the floor had dropped out from beneath her feet. What was happening? Why would the Alpha King interfere in a pack tradition? And why did he keep looking at her like that? "Your Majesty," her father protested. "This is our pack's custom." "Your customs do not supersede my authority, Beta Blackwood," the king interrupted, his voice cold. "And I have decided that Luna Blackwood will not be mated to Axel Stone." He turned his gaze back to Luna, and this time, there was no mistaking the intensity in his eyes. "Luna Blackwood will be coming with me to the royal court. Tonight." The gasps and whispers that erupted around the room barely registered to Luna. She was frozen in place, her mind struggling to comprehend what was happening. The Alpha King wanted her to go with him? Why? For what purpose? And why did some deep, primal part of her, a part she hadn't even known existed until this moment, seem to sing with recognition when his eyes met hers? "Father," she whispered, turning to Gregory for explanation, for protection. But her father's face had gone ashen, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and what looked almost like fear. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice steadier than his expression, "may I ask why you are taking my daughter?" The Alpha King's lips curved into a smile that held no warmth. "You may ask, Beta Blackwood, but I am not obligated to answer. Luna will be coming with me. That is all you need to know." He held out his hand to Luna, his gaze never leaving hers. "Come, Luna Blackwood. Your destiny lies with me now." And despite every rational thought screaming in her head to run, to hide, to resist, Luna found herself stepping forward, her hand reaching for his as if drawn by an invisible force she couldn't resist. The moment their fingers touched, a spark of electricity shot up her arm, and she knew with sudden terrifying clarity that nothing in her life would ever be the same again. The royal caravan moved swiftly through the night, a procession of black vehicles with tinted windows that reflected the moonlight. Luna sat in the back of the lead car, as far from the Alpha King as the spacious interior would allow. Her heart hadn't stopped racing since they'd left the pack house, her mind replaying the events of the evening in an endless loop. "You're afraid," King Alaric said, breaking the silence that had stretched between them for the past hour. It wasn't a question. Luna kept her gaze fixed on the passing landscape. "I've just been taken from my home and family by a king I've never met, for reasons unknown. Fear seems appropriate." She heard him chuckle, a low, rumbling sound that sent an involuntary shiver down her spine. "Your fear is misplaced, Luna Blackwood. Then perhaps you could explain why I'm here," she replied, finally turning to look at him. In the dim light of the car, his features were cast in shadow, making him appear even more intimidating. "Why did you stop my mating ceremony? Why am I going to the royal court?" Alaric studied her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "What do you know about fated mates, Luna?" The question caught her off guard. "Only what everyone knows. They're rare, a perfect match destined by the moon goddess herself. When fated mates meet, there's an immediate connection, a recognition that can't be—" She stopped abruptly, her eyes widening as understanding dawned. "No, that's not possible. Isn't it?" Alaric leaned forward, close enough that she could see the flecks of gold in his amber eyes. "What did you feel when our eyes met in that hall?" Luna shook her head, refusing to acknowledge the truth that was suddenly crystal clear. "You're mistaken. I can't be your fated mate. I was promised to Axel. You were promised to a man who didn't deserve you, by a father who saw you as nothing more than a bargaining chip," Alaric said, his voice hardening. "I put a stop to it, because you belong with me. You are my fated mate, Luna Blackwood, and I am yours." She turned away again, her mind racing. Fated mates were the stuff of legends, of fairy tales told to young wolf pups before bedtime. The idea that she, ordinary, overlooked Luna, could be the fated mate of the Alpha King was absurd. And yet, she couldn't deny what she'd felt when their eyes had met, when their hands had touched. A recognition that went beyond the physical, a pull that seemed to reach into her very soul. If what you say is true, she said carefully, why didn't you simply announce it? Why the secrecy? Alaric's expression darkened. Politics. The situation in the kingdom is complex. There are those who would use any perceived weakness against me, including my attachment to you. So I'm a weakness? Luna asked, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. No, he replied firmly. You are my strength, but until you are officially recognized as my queen, you are also vulnerable, and I will not risk your safety. The car began to slow as they approached a massive wrought iron gate. Beyond it, Luna could see the silhouette of the royal palace against the night sky, its towers reaching toward the stars. We're here, Alaric said, as the gate swung open. Welcome to your new home, Luna. The palace was even more imposing up close, a sprawling structure of dark stone and gleaming windows. Servants lined the entrance, heads bowed in deference as the Alpha King's car pulled to a stop. Luna hesitated as the door was opened for her. Everything was happening too fast. Less than 3 hours ago, she had been preparing to be promised as a second mate to Axel Stone. Now she was at the royal palace, being told she was the fated mate of the Alpha King himself. Come, Alaric said, offering his hand to help her from the car. There's someone I want you to meet. Luna took his hand reluctantly, that same spark of recognition shooting through her at his touch. She followed him up the grand entrance steps, acutely aware of the curious glances from the palace staff. Inside, the palace was a study in contrasts. Ancient stone walls adorned with modern art, traditional pack symbols alongside contemporary furnishings. It spoke of a king who honored tradition, but wasn't bound by it. Alaric led her through a series of corridors, finally stopping outside a door guarded by 2 imposing warriors. They bowed deeply as the king approached. Your Majesty, one of them said. She's been waiting for you. Alaric nodded, then turned to Luna. What you're about to learn must remain between us for now. Do you understand? Luna frowned, confused by his sudden seriousness. Yes, I understand. He opened the door, gesturing for her to enter first. The room beyond was spacious and warm, with a fire crackling in a stone hearth and shelves filled with books lining the walls. At the center of the room, seated in a comfortable chair, was an elderly woman with silver hair and piercing blue eyes. Grandmother, Alaric said, his voice softening in a way Luna hadn't heard before. I've brought her. The old woman's face lit up with a smile that transformed her features from merely handsome to strikingly beautiful. So you have, she said, her voice strong despite her apparent age. Come closer, child. Let me look at you. Luna approached cautiously, feeling as though those blue eyes could see straight through to her soul. Yes, the woman said after a moment. It's as I saw in my vision. You are the one. Vision? Luna repeated, glancing between the woman and Alaric. Luna Blackwood, Alaric said formally. This is my grandmother, Lady Alara Shadowthorn, former queen and seer of our pack. Luna's breath caught. Seers were incredibly rare among wolf shifters, those blessed with the ability to glimpse the future through visions sent by the moon goddess herself. To be in the presence of one was considered an honor beyond measure. It's a pleasure to meet you, Lady Alara, Luna said, offering a respectful bow. Alara waved off the formality. None of that now. We're to be family after all. She patted the seat beside her. Sit, dear. We have much to discuss. Luna sat, still overwhelmed by the rapid changes in her life. Lady Alara, I don't understand what's happening. Your grandson says I'm his fated mate, but You don't believe it, Alara finished for her. That's understandable. Fated mates are rare enough that many consider them myths these days, but I assure you, they are very real. And you, Luna Blackwood, are indeed my grandson's true mate. How can you be so certain? Luna asked. Because I saw it, Alara replied simply. 3 months ago, I had a vision of Alaric finding his mate, a woman with eyes the color of twilight and a spirit unbroken despite years of being undervalued, a woman who would be the key to saving our kingdom. Luna's eyes widened. Saving the kingdom? From what? Alaric and Alara exchanged a look loaded with meaning. There is unrest in the northern territories, Alaric said carefully. Challenges to my rule from within, and threats from neighboring kingdoms without. My father's death 5 years ago wasn't the accident it was made out to be. He was murdered, Alara said bluntly, ignoring Alaric's warning glance. Poisoned by someone within our inner circle, someone who continues to plot against the throne. Luna felt a chill run down her spine. And you think I can help stop this person? How? According to my vision, Alara said. Your bond with Alaric will strengthen his position as king. Together you will expose the traitor and bring peace back to the northern territories. But I'm nobody, Luna protested. Just the second daughter of a beta, promised as a second mate. How could I possibly help strengthen a king's position? Because you are exactly who you are, Alara replied cryptically. A woman of both strength and compassion, overlooked but not diminished by it. The mate my grandson needs, whether he knew it or not. Alaric, who had been pacing by the fireplace, returned to Luna's side. I didn't believe in fated mates either, Luna. Not until I walked into that ceremony tonight and saw you. The moment our eyes met, I knew my grandmother's vision was true. Luna shook her head, still struggling to process everything. Even if what you say is true, even if we are fated mates, I can't just... I have a family, a life where you were valued so little that your father was willing to give you as a second mate to a man who didn't even want you for yourself? Alaric interrupted, his voice gentle despite the harsh truth of his words. Luna flinched, the reality of his statement hitting her like a physical blow. He wasn't wrong. In her pack, in her family, she had always been secondary. Second born, second choice, second mate. What about my sister? She asked, her voice small. Arya will be devastated. We've always been close. Your sister will be welcomed here as often as she wishes to visit, Alaric assured her. I have no quarrel with her. And what happens now? Am I to be announced as your mate immediately? Won't that put me in danger from whoever is plotting against you? Alara reached out, patting Luna's hand. No, dear. For your safety, we'll introduce you as my companion first. It will give you time to adjust to life at court, to learn its rhythms and politics before your true identity is revealed. And when will that be? Luna asked. At the winter solstice ball, Alaric replied. It's traditional for royal announcements to be made then. We have 3 months to prepare you for your role as queen and to identify the traitor in our midst. 3 months. 3 months to go from being the forgotten second daughter to the mate of the Alpha King. 3 months to learn how to be a queen. 3 months to help expose a murderous traitor. Luna felt overwhelmed, her head spinning with the enormity of what lay before her. Part of her wanted to run, to flee back to the familiarity of her pack, even with all its limitations. But another part, a part that grew stronger every time she looked at Alaric, wanted to stay, to explore this unexpected connection between them, to see if what they said about fated mates could possibly be true. I don't know if I can do this, she admitted quietly. Alaric knelt before her, taking her hands in his. The touch sent that now familiar spark through her, a sensation both thrilling and terrifying. You can, he said with absolute conviction. I've seen your strength, Luna Blackwood, even if you haven't recognized it in yourself. You survived years of being overlooked and undervalued without letting it break you. That takes a kind of courage few possess. He raised one hand to gently cup her cheek, and Luna found herself leaning into his touch despite her misgivings. I know this is overwhelming, he continued. I know I'm asking you to trust me when you've only just met me, but I'm asking you to try. Give us, these 3 months. If, at the end of that time, you truly wish to return to your pack, I won't stop you. Luna searched his eyes, looking for any sign of deception, but found only sincerity. You would let me go, even if we are fated mates? Even then, he confirmed, though the pain in his eyes at the thought was evident. I want you by my side, Luna, but not if you're there against your will. That's not what being mates, fated or otherwise, should be about. His words touched something deep within her, a place that had always longed for exactly that kind of respect and consideration. No one in her life, not her father, not Axel, not even Arya, had ever put Luna's wishes first. 3 months, she said finally. I'll give us 3 months. Relief flooded Alaric's features, and for the first time since they'd met, Luna saw him truly smile, a warm, genuine expression that transformed his face from merely handsome to breathtakingly beautiful. Thank you, he said softly. You won't regret it. As he helped her to her feet, Luna wasn't so sure about that, but for better or worse, her path was set. For the next 3 months, she would be living in the royal palace, pretending to be the companion to the former queen, while secretly preparing to be revealed as the Alpha King's mate. And somewhere in this palace, a traitor was watching, waiting for the opportunity to strike against the throne. A traitor who, If Lady Alara's vision was to be believed, Luna would help expose. As Alaric led her from the room, promising to show her to her chambers, Luna couldn't help but wonder what she had gotten herself into, and whether she would survive it. The Northern Royal Court was a labyrinth of power plays, whispered alliances, and veiled threats disguised as pleasantries. Luna had been at the palace for 2 weeks, and she was already exhausted by the constant vigilance required to navigate its treacherous waters. "Remember, back straight, chin up," Lady Alara instructed as they walked through the palace gardens. "You're the future queen, not a second daughter anymore." Luna adjusted her posture, fighting the instinct to make herself smaller, less noticeable. "It's harder than I thought it would be," she admitted. 22 years of habits don't disappear overnight." Alara's expression softened. "No, they don't. But you're making remarkable progress, Luna. More than you realize." They paused beside a fountain, its crystal waters catching the morning light. In the 2 weeks since her arrival, Luna had spent most of her time with the former queen, learning the history of the Northern Territories, the complex familial relationships between pack leaders, and the delicate balance of power that kept the kingdom stable, or had, until King Darius's murder. "Tell me again about the council members," Alara said, continuing their daily lessons. "Who do you think poses the greatest threat to Alaric's rule?" Luna considered the question carefully. The royal council consisted of 5 members, each representing different interests within the kingdom. "Lord Vega is the most openly hostile," she began. "He makes no secret of his disdain for Alaric's more progressive policies. But his aggression makes him an unlikely assassin. He lacks subtlety." Alara nodded approvingly. "Go on." "Lady Selene is cunning, but she has no personal ambition for the throne. Her power comes from being the kingdom's primary trade negotiator. Lord Thorne is loyal to a fault. He was your mate's closest advisor, and has transferred that loyalty to Alaric." "And the last 2? Alara prompted. "Lord Cassius is ambitious but young. He lacks the connections needed to orchestrate something as complex as the king's assassination." Luna paused, considering the final council member. "That leaves Lady Ravenna. She's been on the council since before Alaric was born, has connections throughout the kingdom, and while she appears supportive, there's something calculated about her interest in Alaric's reign." "Very good," Alara said, with a satisfied smile. "You have keen instincts, Luna. Trust them." They continued their walk, now heading toward a secluded corner of the garden, where a small table had been set with tea. It had become their morning ritual: lessons in the garden, followed by tea and a more informal conversation. "You've barely seen Alaric these past 2 weeks," Alara observed as they sat. "Is that by design?" Luna focused on pouring the tea, avoiding the former queen's piercing gaze. "He's busy, I understand that." "He's avoiding you," Alara corrected gently, "because he's afraid." Luna looked up in surprise. "Afraid? The Alpha King? Of what?" "Of how strongly he's drawn to you," Alara replied, accepting her teacup with a nod of thanks. "The pull between fated mates is powerful, Luna. Alaric fears that if he spends too much time with you too soon, he won't be able to maintain the pretense that you're merely my companion." Luna felt her cheeks warm at the implication. It was true that during their few brief encounters over the past 2 weeks, there had been a palpable tension between them, a magnetic pull that made it difficult to keep her distance, to remember that their relationship was supposed to be a secret. "It's not just that," she said after a moment. "I think he's also giving me space to adjust, to make my own decision about whether I want this life." Alara studied her over the rim of her teacup. "And do you want this life?" Luna gazed out over the gardens, considering the question. 2 weeks ago, her life had been mapped out for her, a future as Axel's second mate, living in her sister's shadow. Now she was being offered a crown, a kingdom, and a mate who, despite his formidable exterior, had shown her nothing but respect and consideration. "I don't know yet," she answered honestly. "Everything's happening so fast." "That's fair," Alara conceded. "But remember, the winter solstice approaches quickly. You have little more than 2 months to prepare yourself for what's to come." Before Luna could respond, a servant appeared at the edge of the garden, approaching with a deep bow. "Lady Alara, Lady Luna, forgive the interruption. His Majesty requests Lady Luna's presence in the throne room immediately." Luna and Alara exchanged surprised glances. This was unusual. Alaric had been careful to limit their public interactions to brief, formal exchanges. "Did His Majesty say why?" Alara asked. The servant shook his head. No, my lady. Only that it was urgent. Luna rose, smoothing the front of her dress, a simple but elegant blue gown that brought out the unusual twilight color of her eyes. I'll go at once. Remember your training, Ilara said, squeezing her hand encouragingly. And remember who you are meant to be. The walk to the throne room felt interminable. Luna's mind raced with possibilities. Had Alaric changed his mind? Had the traitor been discovered? Or was there news from her family? The guards at the throne room doors bowed as she approached, swinging the massive oak portals open to admit her. Inside, the cavernous space was surprisingly empty. No courtiers, no petitioners. Only Alaric seated on the throne and a small group standing before him. As Luna entered, all heads turned toward her. Her steps faltered as she recognized the figures standing before the throne. Her father, Gregory Blackwood, along with Arya and Axel. "Ah, Lady Luna," Alaric said, his voice formal but his eyes conveying a silent warning. "Thank you for joining us. Your family has come to pay us a visit." Luna composed herself quickly, remembering her role. She was supposed to be Lady Ilara's companion, nothing more. "Your Majesty," she said with a curtsy. "What a lovely surprise." "Luna!" Arya cried, breaking protocol to rush forward and embrace her sister. "We've been so worried about you." Luna returned the embrace, genuinely happy to see her sister despite the circumstances. "I'm fine, Arya. Truly. The palace has been very welcoming." "We've come to take you home," Gregory Blackwood announced, his voice echoing in the throne room. "This has gone on long enough." Luna felt a chill run down her spine at her father's tone. "Father, Lady Luna is here as my grandmother's invited guest," Alaric interrupted, his voice deceptively calm. "She is free to stay or go as she chooses." Gregory stepped forward, his posture challenging despite addressing his king. "With all due respect, Your Majesty, Luna is my daughter. She belongs with her family, with her pack. She was promised to Axel Stone. A promise I nullified," Alaric reminded him, a dangerous edge creeping into his voice. "Or have you forgotten your king's decree?" The tension in the room was palpable. Luna looked between her father and Alaric, sensing that there was more to this confrontation than a simple family visit. "Luna," Axel spoke up, his voice gentler than Luna had expected. "We've come to bring you home, where you belong. Because you suddenly want me as your mate?" Luna asked, unable to keep the bitterness from her voice. "Or because my father ordered you to retrieve me?" Axel had the grace to look abashed. "Things have changed since you left, Luna. I've had time to think about what I truly want." Luna didn't believe him for a second. She glanced at Arya, who was uncharacteristically quiet, her eyes downcast. "Arya, what's going on?" Arya looked up, her expression troubled. "I'm sorry, Luna. I tried to convince them to leave you alone, but Father insists that your place is with us, with Axel, because it reflects poorly on our family to have you living at the palace as what exactly?" Gregory demanded, his gaze accusatory. "The king's mistress?" "Father!" Luna gasped, horrified. Alaric rose from his throne in one fluid motion, his power filling the room like a physical force. "You will watch your tongue in my presence, Beta Blackwood," he growled, his eyes flashing with alpha dominance. "Lady Luna is here as my grandmother's companion and honored guest. Any suggestion otherwise is not only false, but a grave insult to the crown." Gregory took an involuntary step back, the alpha's power forcing him into submission. "Forgive me, Your Majesty. I spoke out of concern for my daughter's reputation. A concern that seems rather sudden," Alaric noted coldly, "given your willingness to barter her away as a second mate just 2 weeks ago." The silence that followed was deafening. Luna looked at her father, truly seeing him perhaps for the first time, seeing the calculation behind his concern, the ambition behind his parental authority. "Why are you really here, Father?" she asked quietly. "What's changed in 2 weeks that suddenly makes me so valuable to you?" Gregory's expression hardened. "You are a Blackwood. Your place is with your pack, not playing lady-in-waiting at the palace." But Luna wasn't satisfied with this non-answer. She turned to Arya. "Tell me the truth, Arya. Please." Arya glanced nervously at their father before meeting Luna's gaze. "There are rumors," she said hesitantly, "about why the king really brought you here. Some are saying that you're—" She broke off, clearly uncomfortable. "That I'm what?" Luna pressed. "That you're his true mate," Axel finished for her, his expression unreadable. "His fated pair. Luna felt as though the floor had dropped out from beneath her feet. How had this information gotten out? They had been so careful. She glanced at Alaric, who appeared equally surprised, though he hid it better. An interesting rumor, he said smoothly. One might wonder who started it. Gregory stepped forward again. Is it true? He demanded. Is my daughter your fated mate? The question hung in the air, charged with implication. If it was true, it would elevate the Blackwood family's status immeasurably. The father of the queen would wield significant influence in the kingdom. Luna suddenly understood her father's newfound interest in her welfare. It wasn't concern for her at all. It was opportunism. I don't owe you an explanation for my actions, Beta Blackwood, Alaric replied coldly. But I will remind you that Lady Luna is here of her own free will. If she wishes to return with you, she may do so. All eyes turned to Luna, awaiting her decision. She looked at her family, at the father who had never valued her until he thought she might bring him power, at the sister who loved her but had been manipulated into this confrontation, at the man who had been willing to take her as a secondary prize, and now claimed to want her. Then she looked at Alaric. Despite his outward composure, she could see the tension in his jaw, the concern in his eyes. He was truly giving her a choice, even now, even with witnesses present who could spread the truth about their connection. I'm staying, Luna said firmly, moving to stand beside Alaric's throne. My place is here now. Gregory's face darkened with anger. You would choose strangers over your own family? Over the mate promised to you? I was never promised to Axel, Luna corrected him. I was offered to him as an afterthought, a bonus prize that came with area. And you, she continued, her voice gaining strength, you never saw me as anything more than a bargaining chip. At least here I'm valued for myself. Luna, please, Arya pleaded, tears filling her eyes. I miss you. Luna's resolve softened slightly. I miss you too, Arya, and you're always welcome to visit me, but I can't go back to being what I was before. This isn't over, Gregory warned, his gaze shifting between Luna and the king. The council will hear about this. The council, Alaric replied calmly, answers to me, not the other way around. Now I believe this audience is concluded. Guards, please escort our guests out. As the guards moved forward, Luna caught a glimpse of something in her father's eyes, not just anger or disappointment, but a calculating gleam that sent a chill through her. This wasn't just about family politics. There was something else at play. Once her family had been escorted out, Luna turned to Alaric, her composure finally breaking. How did they find out? We've been so careful. Alaric's expression was grim. Someone in the palace must have informed them. Someone who wants to force our hand before we're ready. The traitor? Luna asked, her voice dropping to a whisper. Possibly, Alaric agreed. Or someone working for them. Either way, this changes things. We can no longer afford to wait until the winter solstice to announce our bond. Luna's heart raced at the implications. But your grandmother said I wasn't ready, that I needed more time to prepare. We don't have that luxury anymore, Alaric interrupted gently. If your father goes to the council with this information, it will become a political issue. We need to control the narrative. He took her hands in his, that now familiar spark of connection flaring between them. Luna, I know this isn't what we planned. I know I promised you 3 months to decide, but circumstances have changed. What are you saying? Luna asked, though she already knew the answer. I'm saying that we need to announce our bond, soon, before others can use it against us. His grip on her hands tightened slightly, but I meant what I said before. If, after all this is over, you truly wish to return to your pack, I won't stop you. Luna searched his eyes, finding only sincerity despite the obvious pain the thought caused him. What if my father was the one who poisoned your father? She asked suddenly. He seems desperate for power, for connection to the throne. Alaric considered this. It's possible. Gregory Blackwood has always been ambitious, but he's not the only one. Half the kingdom would like to see me deposed or controlled. What do we do now? Luna asked. Now, Alaric said with a grim smile, we accelerate our plans. Tomorrow night, at the harvest feast, I will announce you as my fated mate and future queen. Luna's breath caught in her throat. Tomorrow? But I'm not ready. You are, Alaric assured her, his faith in her evident. Lady Alara has said as much. You've taken to court politics more naturally than anyone expected. And what about the traitor? Won't this announcement put me in more danger? Alaric's expression darkened. Yes, which is why you won't leave my side from this moment forward. I will personally ensure your safety until the traitor is exposed." The implications of his words sank in slowly. From this moment forward, she would be publicly acknowledged as Alaric's mate. There would be no more hiding, no more pretense. And while part of her was terrified, another part, a part that grew stronger every day, was relieved. "I should speak with your grandmother," Luna said, her practical nature asserting itself despite her inner turmoil. "We need to prepare for tomorrow." Alaric nodded, but before he released her hands, he pulled her closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Luna, there's something else you should know. Something I've wanted to tell you since the night we met." She looked up at him, caught by the intensity in his gaze. "What is it?" "I've been fighting the pull between us because I wanted to give you time," he said. "But the truth is, I've been yours since the moment I saw you. Not because of fate or destiny or some mystical bond, but because of who you are. Your strength, your kindness, your resilience. Fated or not, you are the mate I would choose." His words struck something deep within Luna, a chord that resonated with her own confused feelings. For 2 weeks, she'd been telling herself that the pull she felt toward Alaric was just the fated bond, something magical and beyond her control. But in quiet moments, she'd begun to recognize something else, a genuine admiration for his leadership, a respect for the way he treated those around him, a warmth that spread through her whenever he was near. She began, but was interrupted by the sound of the throne room doors opening once more. Lady Alara hurried in, her expression grave. "Alaric, Luna, we have a problem. Gregory Blackwood has gone directly to the council. He's demanding an emergency session to discuss what he's calling the king's inappropriate enthrallment with his daughter." Alaric's jaw tightened. "So he wants to play politics. Very well. Let's see how he fares against a king and his queen." He turned back to Luna, determination glinting in his eyes. "Change of plans. The announcement happens today at the emergency council meeting. Are you ready?" Luna took a deep breath, straightening her shoulders and lifting her chin as Lady Alara had taught her. For the first time in her life, she was being asked to step forward, to claim her place rather than accept the one assigned to her. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. "Yes," she said, her voice steady and clear. "I'm ready." As Alaric offered her his arm, Luna couldn't help but wonder if she was walking toward her destiny, or her doom. But one thing was certain. There was no going back now. The council chamber fell silent as Luna entered on Alaric's arm. 5 pairs of eyes tracked their progress across the polished marble floor, some curious, some calculating, all surprised by her presence at what was meant to be a closed session. Luna recognized each council member from Lady Alara's detailed descriptions. Lord Vega with his perpetual scowl, Lady Selene's elegant poise, Lord Thorne's weathered features, young Lord Cassius's eager expression, and Lady Ravenna's carefully neutral facade. Her father stood before them, turning with undisguised shock as they approached. "Your Majesty," Lord Vega began, "this is a council matter. Lady Luna's presence is inappropriate." "On the contrary," Alaric interrupted, his voice carrying effortlessly through the chamber. "Her presence is essential. After all, she is the subject of this emergency session, is she not?" He guided Luna to stand beside his throne, remaining on his feet as he addressed the council. "Beta Blackwood has brought concerns regarding my relationship with Lady Luna. I believe the most efficient course of action is to address these concerns directly." Luna fought to keep her expression composed, remembering everything Lady Alara had taught her about court appearances. Back straight, chin up, eyes steady. "Your Majesty," her father began, bowing stiffly, "I come before the council with grave concerns about my daughter's presence at court. There are rumors that she has been brought here not as Lady Alara's companion, but as your Majesty's intended mate. If true, this raises serious questions about the proper protocols being observed." "An interesting concern," Alaric replied coolly, from a man who was willing to barter his daughter away as a second mate without her consent. Several council members exchanged glances at this revelation. Lady Ravenna leaned forward slightly, her sharp eyes fixed on Luna. "Is that true, Lady Luna?" she asked. "Were you to be a second mate to Warrior Stone?" Luna met her gaze directly. "Yes, my lady. It was arranged by my father without consulting me." "And the king intervened?" Lady Selene inquired, her perfectly arched eyebrow rising with interest. "His Majesty prevented a union I did not desire," Luna confirmed, keeping her voice steady despite her racing heart, for which I am grateful. Gregory stepped forward, his expression hardening. The king has no right to interfere in pack matters. I have every right, Alaric cut in, his tone dangerously soft. When those matters affect the future queen of the Northern Territories. The chamber erupted into startled murmurs. Lord Cassius nearly fell from his chair in surprise, while Lord Vega's scowl deepened into something approaching fury. Queen? Lady Ravenna echoed, her composure finally slipping. You cannot mean to claim this Pack Beta's daughter as your mate? Not claim, Alaric corrected, reaching for Luna's hand. Recognize, Luna Blackwood is my fated mate, blessed by the moon goddess herself. Our bond was instantaneous and undeniable. Luna felt a surge of warmth where their hands connected, the now familiar spark intensifying into something deeper, more powerful. She caught a flicker of movement from the corner of her eye. Lady Alara entering quietly, taking a position near the chamber's entrance. Impossible, Lord Vega sputtered. Fated mates are a myth, a fairy tale for pups. I assure you they are quite real, Alaric replied, and remarkably inconvenient for anyone who might have had other plans for the royal succession. His words hung in the air, laden with implication. Luna felt the atmosphere in the chamber shift, tension gathering like storm clouds. This is preposterous, Gregory protested. You expect us to believe that my daughter, a girl promised as a second mate, is suddenly your divinely chosen queen. I don't expect you to believe anything, Beta Blackwood, Alaric replied evenly. The truth doesn't require your belief to remain true. Luna stepped forward, drawing on courage she hadn't known she possessed. Father, I understand this is difficult to accept, but I know what I feel. The bond between His Majesty and myself is real. Gregory's face flushed with anger. You've been manipulated, Luna. Seduced by power and luxury into believing a convenient fantasy. Or perhaps, Lady Ravenna interjected smoothly, it is you who has been manipulated, Beta Blackwood. All eyes turned to the elegant councilwoman, who had risen to her feet with feline grace. What do you mean? Gregory demanded. I mean, Lady Ravenna continued, circling the chamber with measured steps, that your sudden concern for your daughter's welfare seems suspiciously timed. After all, you were content to offer her as a secondary mate just weeks ago. What changed, I wonder? Luna watched the older woman carefully, sensing a subtle shift in the chamber's dynamics. Lady Ravenna's intervention was unexpected and potentially dangerous. I received information, Gregory admitted reluctantly, suggesting that the king had taken an inappropriate interest in my daughter. Information from whom? Lord Thorne spoke up for the first time, his loyalty to the crown evident in his suspicious tone. Gregory hesitated, and in that moment, Luna saw something click into place in Alaric's expression. You were approached, Alaric said, realization dawning in his eyes. Someone came to you with this information. Someone who wanted you to challenge me before the council. Gregory's silence was confirmation enough. Lady Alara stepped forward from her position near the door. Who was it, Beta Blackwood? She asked, her voice gentle but insistent. Who planted these doubts in your mind? Gregory looked trapped, his gaze darting between the council members and his daughter. It was me, Lady Ravenna announced calmly, drawing all eyes back to her. I approached Beta Blackwood, and I would do it again. Lord Cassius gasped audibly. Lady Ravenna, what are you saying? The elegant councilwoman's smile was cold as winter. I'm saying that our young king has been led astray by romantic notions. Fated mates? Divine bonds? These are distractions from the serious business of ruling. You sought to undermine me, Alaric stated, his voice dangerously quiet, just as you sought to undermine my father. The accusation hung in the air like a drawn blade. Lady Ravenna's composure never wavered, but Luna caught the subtle tightening of her fingers on the ornate chair before her. Your father was a fool, she said finally, dropping all pretense. He believed in outdated traditions, in the sanctity of bloodlines. The Northern Territories deserve leadership based on merit, not birth. Merit like yours? Lady Alara asked softly. Lady Ravenna's chin lifted. I have served this kingdom for 40 years. I have the experience, the connections, the vision to lead us into a new era. So you poisoned my father, Alaric said. Not a question, but a statement. And when I proved less malleable than you hoped, you began plotting against me as well. I did what was necessary. Lady Ravenna replied, unrepentant. And I would do it again. The kingdom needs strength, not sentiment. Luna felt a chill run through her at the woman's casual admission of regicide. Lady Ravenna had maintained her position on the council for decades, building alliances, gathering secrets, patiently waiting for her opportunity to seize real power. You miscalculated, Luna said, drawing surprised looks from around the chamber. You thought my father's ambition would serve your purposes, that he would create enough controversy to weaken Alaric's position, but you didn't account for the truth. Truth? Lady Ravenna scoffed. What truth, girl? Luna met her gaze steadily. That fated mates are real. That the bond between His Majesty and myself cannot be broken or manipulated. That the moon goddess herself has blessed this union. As if in answer to her words, a strange warmth began to spread through the chamber. Luna felt it first where her hand still clasped Alaric's, a golden glow that seemed to emanate from their joined fingers, spreading up their arms and enveloping them both in shimmering light. Gasps echoed around the chamber as the supernatural manifestation grew brighter, casting dancing patterns across the marble floor and stone walls. The goddess's blessing, Lady Alara breathed, awe in her voice. I've only read about it in the ancient texts, a visible manifestation of the fated bond, revealed in moments of true need. Lady Ravenna stepped back, her composure finally cracking as the divine light filled the chamber. This is trickery, some kind of illusion. No illusion, Alaric said, his voice resonating with newfound power. This is the truth you sought to deny, Lady Ravenna, the truth that will be your undoing. With a gesture from Alaric, guards entered the chamber, moving swiftly to surround the traitorous councilwoman. Lady Ravenna looked wildly around the room, seeking allies, but found none. Even Lord Vega, for all his opposition to Alaric's policies, looked disgusted by her admission of murder. Lady Ravenna, Alaric pronounced formally, you are charged with the murder of King Darius Shadowthorn and conspiracy against the crown. You will be held for trial according to our laws. As the guards led her away, Luna felt the golden light begin to recede, though the warmth of it lingered in her chest, a reminder of the bond that had been affirmed before witnesses. Her father stood silent, his expression a complex mixture of shock, awe, and calculation. Luna approached him slowly, aware of all eyes upon them. Father, she said quietly, I forgive your part in this. You were manipulated by someone who has spent decades perfecting the art of manipulation, but I want you to know that my place is here now, by Alaric's side. Gregory looked at his daughter, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time, and seemed to finally see the strength that had always been there, hidden beneath her quiet demeanor. You would have made a terrible second mate, he said finally, a reluctant smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Far too stubborn. But she will make an extraordinary queen, Alaric said, coming to stand beside Luna. If she'll have me. Luna turned to him in surprise. If I'll have you? I thought the bond exists, Alaric acknowledged, taking both her hands in his. But I meant what I said before. I want you by my side because you choose to be there, not because fate dictated it. The chamber had grown silent, the council members and Lady Alara watching this unexpected moment unfold. Even the guards at the door seemed to be holding their breath. Luna looked up at Alaric, at the man who had disrupted her life, who had challenged her to become more than she'd ever thought possible, who had offered her a choice when everyone else had only ever given her obligations. I choose you, she said simply. Not because of fate or destiny or divine bonds, but because of who you are. Because in you, I've found someone who sees me, truly sees me, and values what he sees. The smile that broke across Alaric's face was like sunrise after the longest night, brilliant and full of promise. He bent his head, and their lips met in a kiss that seemed to seal their bond more powerfully than any formal ceremony could have done. When they finally parted, Luna became aware of the applause that had broken out around them. Lord Thorne's enthusiastic clapping, Lady Celine's elegant approval, even Lord Vega's grudging acknowledgement. Well, Lady Alara said, wiping a suspicious moisture from her eye, it seems we have both a traitor's arrest and a royal engagement to announce to the kingdom. And a wedding to plan, Lord Cassius added cheerfully. The winter solstice is still the traditional time for royal unions, is it not? It is, Alaric confirmed, his eyes never leaving Luna's face. If that suits my queen. It does, Luna replied, feeling for the first time in her life exactly where she belonged. It suits your queen perfectly. 3 months later, as winter's first snow blanketed the northern territories, Luna stood before a mirror in the royal chambers, hardly recognizing the woman who gazed back at her. Gone was the uncertain second daughter, the overlooked girl who had spent her life in shadows. In her place stood a queen, poised, confident, beloved by her people and her king. The winter solstice wedding had united not just 2 souls, but an entire kingdom. With Lady Ravenna's betrayal exposed and justice served, the court had rallied around their alpha king and his fated mate, finding in their union a symbol of hope and renewal. Luna smoothed her hands over the silver-white gown she wore for the evening solstice ball, her fingers lingering on the royal crest embroidered over her heart. A soft knock at the door announced Arya's arrival, her sister having become a frequent and welcome visitor to the palace. "You look magnificent," Arya said, embracing Luna warmly. "I always knew you were meant for more than being someone's second choice." "I'm not sure you did," Luna teased gently, "but thank you anyway." Arya's expression grew serious. "I mean it, Luna. Watching you these past months, the way you've grown into your role, the way you and Alaric rule together, it's inspired me to make some changes of my own." "Oh?" Luna raised an eyebrow. "What kind of changes?" "I've broken my engagement to Axel," Arya admitted. "After seeing what a true partnership looks like between you and Alaric, I realized I deserve nothing less myself." Luna hugged her sister tightly. "You deserve the world, Arya." Another knock announced Alaric's arrival. He entered resplendent in formal attire, his crown catching the light from the fire. The bond between them hummed with recognition and joy as their eyes met. "Are you ready, my queen?" he asked, offering his arm. "Our people are waiting." Luna took his arm, feeling the strength of their connection, not just the fated bond blessed by the moon goddess, but the deeper bond they had forged through choice and trust and love. "I'm ready," she said, and together they stepped forward to greet their kingdom, no longer the second daughter and the lonely king, but 2 halves of a whole, exactly as they were meant to be. If you enjoyed this story, a like or comment really helps. And if you wish to hear more tales like this one, make sure you subscribe so you never miss the next tale.